The first time I saw Brenda Hallbrook in that neon vest labeled HOA Patrol, I honestly thought I was being pranked, like where's the camera crew hiding, right? But nope, she was dead serious. Let me back up a sec. I'm Yarden Elridge. I'm 35, and a couple years ago, I emptied out my savings, every penny I'd made running construction projects, and bought this property, Maple Hollow Estate. It's my dream, this old place with dogwoods out front and enough room to host every kind of wedding you can think of. My fiancée, Winton, and I wanted to get married right here, under the trees with our friends and family, all of it. So picture this, rehearsal night, we got about 90 people milling around, everything's classy, music's mellow. We even went through the hassle of getting a noise permit from the county, didn't leave a detail uncovered. But, sometimes it's not about the rules, it's about who thinks they make them. Brenda, the HOA secretary, with her chin sharp enough to slice cheese and a voice that could set off car alarms, comes stomping up our gravel drive, waving her clipboard like it's the Constitution. This is a residential neighborhood, not a concert venue, she screeches, rattling off something about HOA Code 17B. I just smiled and told her, Brenda, Maple Hollow's zone commercial. That's literally why I bought it. Didn't even faze her. She pointed out, your guests are parking on community roads. I've already filed a complaint. I explained we had off-site parking, we'd shuttled everyone in. No cars, no issues. But she was on a roll, promising to bring it up at the next board meeting and, get this, threatened to call the sheriff if the wedding went forward. I shrugged, let her. I wasn't going to let a clipboard ruin my wedding. And man, the next day was beautiful. Blue sky, dogwoods blooming, every chair filled. My fiancé, Ira, looking like something out of a movie then. Halfway through the ceremony, sirens. 2 sheriff's cruisers crawl up the lane. You could feel everyone hold their breath. And there's Brenda, grinning at the property line, arms crossed, soaking up the chaos. A deputy comes over, says they got a noise complaint, some talk about an unauthorized gathering. I just handed over our permits. We're legal, I told him, loud enough for Brenda to hear. She's just upset she didn't get an invite. He checked the papers, handed them back, then turned to Brenda, told her flat out she was trespassing and needed to leave. She refused, so, the sheriff's department kindly escorted her off the property in front of everyone. Folks clapped. One of the flower girls even yelled, "Bye, crazy lady." Honestly, I figured that would be the end of it. Nope, that was just Brenda's warm-up act. We didn't hear from her for about a week, enough time for me and Ira to sneak off for a honeymoon in Oregon, come back, and throw ourselves into business. Maple Hollow was finally picking up. We had summer bookings lined up, hired 2 part-time groundskeepers. Everything was rolling. Then, out of nowhere, I get a letter. Not from Brenda or the HOA, but from the County Zoning Commission, a formal notice of investigation. Some anonymous tip claimed we were breaking zoning, running unlicensed commercial events, violating sound ordinances, the whole 9 yards. I went straight to the zoning office. The clerk, Rayanne, was polite, but you could tell she meant business. She pulled up photos of our wedding, our guests, even the buffet, taken through bushes, gaps in fences. One even looked like someone was up on a ladder. Creepy as hell. The complaint? Signed, in bold black ink, by Brenda Hallbrook, acting secretary of the West Garden Estates HOA. Now, this HOA had 0 legal authority over my property, but the complaint had so many photos and details, the county had to take it seriously. I spent the next week digging up every permit, inspection, and the zoning record I had, losing sleep, losing time I should have spent running events. Ira, pacing the office with a folder full of paperwork, just said she's trying to bury us in red tape. Doesn't matter if we're legal. She wants to bleed us dry. And she was right. I decided if Brenda wanted a fight, she was going to get one. I started digging into her and the HOA, found their bylaws, board meeting notes, and here's where it gets juicy, their financial records. $15,000 have been transferred out of their community reserve into something called Neighborhood Enforcement Initiative. No vote, no explanation, just a vague memo about compliance efforts 2 months before our wedding. Call my friend Hector. He's a local attorney, helped me set up the business when I bought Maple Hollow. He looked at the numbers and said, if she spent HOA funds on surveillance or legal attacks against you, that's misappropriation. Could be fraud. So, Hector filed a records request for any correspondence between the HOA and the county zoning board. While we waited, I put up new security cameras, north fence line, rear easement. 3 nights later, I got a ping on my phone, motion detected. Pulled up the live feed, and there she was, Brenda herself, crouched in the brush, flashlight and camera in hand, taking pictures of my maintenance shed. I called the sheriff, and by the time deputies arrived, she was still there, squatting behind a hydrangea bush like a raccoon. In her car, a folder full of photos of my property, lists of names, even printed satellite maps with notes. She had a whole dossier. They charged her with trespassing and unlawful surveillance, but the Real bomb dropped the next morning. The county investigator called to say Brenda's zoning complaint included a forged signature, a supposed neighbor who, as it turned out, had died 2 years ago. That turned it into a criminal case, fraud, submitting forged documents to the government. Now the sheriff's department got serious. We handed over everything, camera footage, the folder, forged letters. Hector went to the state HOA oversight committee. Turns out Brenda had been pushing boundaries for years, just never ran into anyone stubborn enough to push back. The HOA board called an emergency meeting and invited me as a guest. Residents were livid. One woman wanted a refund for a fence Brenda made her tear down. A guy said Brenda fined his daughter for running a lemonade stand. All these little injustices bubbled up. The president, Thomas, stood up and read a statement. Brenda acted alone, misused funds, forged documents. Her position was terminated, effective immediately. Folks clapped, some cheered. Outside, Thomas shook my hand. She's been a problem for years, but no one wanted a legal fight. You forced the truth into the open. I just told him, audit everything she touched. Make it right. 2 weeks later, the county dropped their investigation into Maple Hollow. The zoning board even apologized. Brenda faced 3 misdemeanors and a felony. And the best part? Some of the folks who'd been too scared to talk started renting the venue for their own events. Once Brenda was out, people realized Maple Hollow was a community gem. We thought it was over. But then one morning, I'm washing the walkway and a sedan pulls up, district attorney's office. This investigator, Neil, asks if I think Brenda acted alone. I say she was the only one who got in my face, but I wouldn't be shocked if others were involved. Turns out the DA found emails from the treasurer and vice president talking about compliance measures and protecting property values through outside intervention. They'd hired a private investigator paid with HOA funds for surveillance on nuisance properties. It wasn't just Brenda. The DA prepped charges, not just for Brenda, but the treasurer, VP, maybe even the president. Financial crimes, conspiracy, unlawful surveillance, even identity fraud. Hector started organizing a class action. Turns out Brenda's HOA had gone after at least 10 other people, from a daycare-running single mom to a veteran with an illegal flagpole. The story hit the local news, then regional. HOA accused of conspiracy and fraud. That was the headline. Court was brutal. The judge didn't buy the board's excuses, especially when a forensic accountant showed over $30,000 of dues funneled to sketchy vendors, including a PI with a revoked license and a shell company owned by Brenda's cousin. The HOA was dissolved, the treasurer arrested, VP flipped and testified. Court awarded restitution to the folks Brenda had harassed. And me, I got enough to cover lost business and legal bills. After the dust settled, residents formed something new, a neighborhood cooperative, not an HOA. 5 volunteers, no fines, open meetings, full transparency. They called it the Willow Bend Collective. IRA, and I kept running Maple Hollow, only now it was booked every weekend, weddings, concerts, block parties. Folks who used to whisper now came by with muffins, thank you notes, and stories of Brenda's reign. Even built a new reception pavilion, the Hollow Hearth, and opened it with a community concert under the lights. The whole neighborhood showed up. One afternoon, this retired guy I'd never met walks up, shakes my hand, and hands me an envelope. Turns out Brenda had been plotting for years, try to turn the whole neighborhood into a gated community by buying up property with liens and HOA pressure. She just got greedy and sloppy with us. We turned the documents over to the new board. No secrets, no vendettas, just sunlight. Brenda ended up with a plea deal, a ban from ever serving on another HOA board, her name on a state watch list. The neighborhood healed, the dogwoods bloomed, and life moved on. Sometimes I think about all the ways this could have ended. If I just rolled over, let her push us around, let her keep running the show. But you can't build a real community on fear. You build it on trust, on standing up, even when you'd rather just run your business and not make waves. So, let me ask you, if your neighborhood's on the brink, do you play it safe, or do you stand your ground? Because when you do, when you fight for what's right, even when it's hard, you might just find out you're not fighting alone after all. Drop your thoughts down below. Have you ever stood up to an HOA or seen someone abuse a little power? Let's talk about what justice really means and why sometimes the best way to win is just to shine a light on the whole mess.